الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. The difference between Makki and Al-Madani Surahs. Aywa. The Quran was revealed in sections to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ from the beginning of the prophethood until shortly before his death. Thus the Quran came down continuously over a period of 23 years. Many sections of the Quran were generally revealed to solve the problems which existed among the Muslim communities in both Makkah and Medina, since the problems and needs of Makkah were different from those of Medina. The revelations of Makkah and Medina have a special characteristic of their own. It is bound to know the difference between the revelations of Makkah and Medina if the Quran itself is to be clearly understood. Because of the great importance of the Quran to Islam, Muslims, scholars from the time of the Sahaba have devoted much time and effort in this era of study. The features of Makkan as revelations. Makkan revelations are defined as well as verses and chapters of the Quran which were brought by Jibril ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ, before the Hijrah, that is before the Prophet's migration to Medina. This include verses which were revealed in Taif as well as those revealed in other areas outside of Makkah. These revelations represent the first stage of Islamic movement in which its fundamentals were established. Number one, Tawheed. When Islam was first presented to the Prophet or the people of Makkah, they were in a state of disbelief. Most of them believe in Allah as the Lord, Creator, the Sustainer, but they not worship Him alone. Rather, they put between themselves and Allah many intermediaries. They made idols to represent these intermediaries and worshipped them instead of Allah. Thus the early revelations taught the people about Allah's unity, Tawheed, and power of all things. They told the people that Allah was without parent, offspring, or any partner who shared His powers. They also pointed out that idols could neither bring good or hold back evil, and they questioned the logic of worshipping things which could not even see or hear. Number two, Salah. After the first verses of revelation came informing the Prophet ﷺ that he had been chosen for prophethood, Allah sent Jibril ﷺ to teach him the correct method of prayer. This was necessary because the correct method of prayer could not be arrived at by logical reasoning. Therefore, even the Prophet ﷺ himself had to be taught the correct method of worshipping Allah. As the early verses are called upon the Prophet ﷺ and his early band of followers to make their salah regularly. Since the kuffars of Makkah were in the habit of worshipping idols in the belief that these homemade gods will carry their prayers to Allah for them, the early verses were also aimed at clarifying this misconception. The verses taught that salah should only be made for and to Allah, as is the only one who can answer them. Great stress was placed on salah because of its relationship to Tawheed. Correct salah directly to Allah alone is the most basic way of putting Tawheed into practice. Number 3, the unseen. Since there was no way that human beings could possibly come to know about the unseen world, the early verses taught them about its wonders, its mysteries, and its horrors. The verses describe paradise and its pleasures in order to encourage the believers to continue to do good deeds and to assure them of a reward. They also describe the hellfire and its torment in order to encourage the believers to strive to avoid evil deeds. Description of the fire and its inhabitants also reassure the believers that those who do wrong in this life will not escape Allah's punishment. The description were also aimed at scaring the disbelievers into reconsidering their position before it became too late. Some of the verses also reason with those who could not accept their resurrection by giving them examples from nature such as rain falling on dead earth, bringing it back to its life. والله الذي أرسل الرياح فتثير سحابا فسقناه إلى بلد الميت فأحيينا به الأرض بعد موتها كذلك النشور. It's Allah who sends the wind so that they raise up the clouds and drive them to a dead land and revive them their earth after its dead, as such will be resurrected. Surah Al-Fatir 5 verse 9. Others pointed out logically that the recreation of life will be easier than its creation, although it is all the same to Allah. وهو الذي يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده وهو أهون عليه, and it is who originated the creation, then he will repeat it, and this is easier to him. Surah Al-Rum. Number 4, Allah's existence. There was some individuals among the Makkans who were in the doubt about Allah's very existence. Thus, some of the early verses presented logical argument proving Allah's existence. Sometimes proofs were taken from nature and the creatures among to the society. Allah asked the Makkans, أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت والجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت. They did not look at the camels how they are created, and at the heaven how it is raised, and at the mountains how they are rooted, and at the earth how it is spread. At other times, straight logic was used. Allah asked them if they were created from nothing or if they created themselves. أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم خالقون? Were they created by nothing, or were they themselves the creators? The answer had to be one or the other. Since they knew they had not created themselves, they had to realize that they were created. Even if they said that they came from their parents and their parents came from their parents and so on, the numbers eventually decreases to one who came from nothing. Thus, Allah the Creator has to be accepted for our own existence to make sense. 5 challenges. In order to prove the Quraysh that the Quran was from Allah and that Muhammad was a prophet of Allah, some of the Meccan verses challenged the Arabs to initiate the Quran, to imitate the Quran. Many of the chapters began with individual letters like Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad, or Nun, in order to tease the Meccans with the same letters of the alphabet that they made their florid speeches and poetry with. Allah revealed the Quran with the same letters, but they could not just imitate it. Since the Arabs were unable to produce even a chapter resembling the smallest chapter of the Quran, the miraculous nature of the Quran and its divine origin were clearly proven to the people at that time. However, many of them preferred to look at the Quran as a magical spell and the Prophet ﷺ as a master magician. The people of old. Aywa. The Meccan verses often mention historical examples of Allah's revelations like Ad and the Tamud. They were mentioned in order to warn those who had rejected the message of Islam. The verses spoke about the wonders of the ancient civilizations. They listed the many blessings which Allah had bestowed on the peoples of those civilizations. Thus they, Aywa. Then the verses recounted how the people disobeyed Allah and denied His blessings, and how Allah's punishment caught them when they were totally unaware of what could become of them if Allah so willed. These examples were quite familiar to the Arabs because ruins of such civilizations could still be seen. For example, the stone tombs of Madani al-Saleh were directly on the trade route to Syria. Number 7, Iman. Very few laws were revealed in the Meccan verses. Instead, the verses concentrated on the principles which could build the Iman of the early Muslims. These verses spoke on the importance of fearing Allah and being aware of His presence and knowledge of all things. They were often filled with advice about being patient, perseverant, truthful, and trustworthy, in order to build the moral, spiritual character of early Muslims who were in a minority and under a lot of pressure from Meccan society. Number 8, short verses. The Meccan surahs usually had short verses which catchy rhymes and a very strong rhyme. These qualities were meant to catch the attention of listeners who were basically opposed to the message of Islam. The verse had to be short because the audience will not be willing to listen to long drawn-out statements. As soon as they had any of the Quran, they will stick their fingers in their ears and turn away. Thus, the verses often had to strike home immediately. The features of Madinan revelations. Madinan revelations are all those verses and chapters of the Quran which was revealed after the Hijrah. This includes verses which were revealed during the battles as well as those revealed in Makkah and Mina during after the pharaoh pilgrimage. All these verses are considered Madinan because they represent the revelations of the second stage of Islamic movement in which the consolidation of the Islamic state took place. The following are some of the main characteristics of Madinan verses. Number 1, laws. So once Medina had become the new center of the Islamic movement, the Islamic State was born. The Prophet ﷺ had become the ruler of the Muslims of Medina, as well as the Jews and the Arab worshippers who lived there, and constitution was drawn up and a system of justice was established. Thus, the verses during the Medinan stage contained many social, economic, and spiritual laws which were necessary for the organization and the development of Islamic State. Zakah, Som, and Hajj were revealed. Likewise, it was during this period that drinking alcohol, eating swine, and gambling were all forbidden. Number 2, people of the book. The Medina Muslims came in contact with the Jews for the first time. In order to try to shake the beliefs of the Muslims, the Jews used to ask the Prophet ﷺ various questions about Allah, the earlier prophet, and the unseen. They asked questions about the origin of the soul and what it was made of. Thus, a number of Medinan verses represented answers to the many questions raised by the Jews. The Muslims of Medina also came in contact with the Christians on a large scale. As a result of that, we find a number of Medinan verses clarifying Christian misconception about Prophet Isa alayhi salam. Allah, they pointed out that Isa alayhi salam birth was not greater than that of Adam alayhi salam, who had neither father nor mother. إن مثل عيسى عند الله كمثل آدم خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون. But the likeness of Isa before Allah is the likeness of Adam. He created him from dust, then said to him, be, and he was. That is Surah Al-Imran, number 3, verse 59. They also stress that in the miracle of Isa, such as bringing the dead back to life, were only by Allah's mission. Thus, Isa was not a god, nor the son of Allah, and Allah was not the dad of the three. Number 3, the Munafiqun. For the first time since the beginning of the final message, we find people entering Islam, yet not believing in it. In Makkah, Muslims were oppressed and attacked, so no one would enter Islam unless he truly believed. On the other hand, the Muslims of Madinah were strong and they ruled the city. Thus, we find some people entering Islam in order to benefit from its strength and to oppose it from within. Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul was about to be crowned king of Medina when the Prophet ﷺ arrived. The Prophet ﷺ was made the ruler of Medina, and Ibn Salul's hopes were ruined. Since the Muslims were strong and could not openly oppose them, he accepted Islam and worked against it from within. He eventually became the head of the Munafiqun hypocrites. Thus, the verses of the Medina stage warned the Muslims about the dangers of the hypocrite and taught them how to deal effectively with them. Number 4, Jihad. The origin to fight against the enemy was given for the first time in Al-Madinah. During the Meccan period, Muslims were forbidden to fight back. This was for two basic reasons. Number 1, the Muslims were a minority and could easily be wiped out, and number 2, only the strong could survive to the test. The Meccan period prepared the foundation of the Islamic movement to come. It was during the Madinah stage that a series of battles were fought against the force of disbelief until finally Makkah was conquered and the whole of the Arabian Peninsula came under the rule of Islam. There's a number of Madinah verses taught Muslims the Islamic principles of war. For example, they taught how to deal with the prisoners of war, and they forbade retreat during an attack except as a trick to trap the enemy. They also encouraged the Muslims to prepare themselves with the best weapons and better gear they could find. Number 5, long verses. The Medina verses intended to be longer than the surahs of Makkah. In fact, there are a number of Medina verses which are longer than the whole surahs of the Meccan period. The longest verse of the Quran is the verse on loans in the Medina surah Al-Baqarah number 2, verse 282. This verse contains approximately 143 words. The shortest surah of the Quran is the Makkah surah Al-Kawthar, which contains a total of only 11 separate words in its 3 short verses. With the need to catch the attention of unwilling listeners was no longer there because Islam had become strong and its followers were many. Thus, the audience of this stage was quite willing to listen attentively to longer verses teaching the vital laws of Islam. Number 6, order of the surahs. Although all the Meccan verses were revealed during the same period, they were neither memorized nor written in the same order of which they were revealed. Verses from various surahs were revealed at once. Whenever single verses were revealed, the Prophet ﷺ would tell his scribes to write it in the surah to which it belonged. If a new surah was revealed, he would recite the surah in the order it was to be recorded. Once the Medina verses and surahs began to be revealed, the Prophet ﷺ will tell his companions to place them before or after certain Meccan surahs and verses. Thus, when the revelation of the Quran was complete, Meccan verses could be found within the Medinan surahs, and Medinan verses within the Meccan surahs. The Prophet ﷺ recorded the verses and the surahs of the Quran according to Allah's command. The reason for that was that the verses were revealed according to the needs of a developing community, whereas the order for reading purposes needed to be varied so as not to make the Quran seem one-sided in its presentation. The mixture of verses and chapters from the 2 stages gives the reader a more balanced picture of the message of Islam, and Allah knows best the importance. There are a number of reasons why a distinction needs to be made between Makkah and Medina surahs and verses. The following is only 3 most important verse reasons. Number 1, fiqh, Islamic law. The various laws of Islam were revealed over a period of 23 years. Some laws cancelled earlier laws and other laws were revealed bit by bit. It was necessary to know at which point in time the various laws were revealed in order to apply them properly. The laws of the later Medinan period sometimes took the place of the earlier laws. For example, alcohol was made forbidden in gradual stages. The first law concerning alcohol was simply a warning of its dangers. Allah said, يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثم أكبر بنفعهما. They ask you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, concerning alcohol, drink, and gambling. Say, in them is a great sin and some benefit for men, but the sin of them is greater than their benefit. Surah Al-Baqarah 2 verse 219. أي نعم. The second law which was revealed one the Muslim away from Salah when they were intoxicated drunk. Allah said, يا أيها الذين يا أيها الذين يا أيها يا أيها يا أيها يا أيها الذين يا أيها الذين it's not clear here. لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى. I think it's يا أيها الذين آمنوا. لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى وأنتم تعلمون ما تقولون. This is Surah An-Nisa verse Surah number 443, and you should confirm it. Yeah, it is not clear. Or you believe, do not approach Salah while you are in a drunken state until you know what you are saying. The third law, however, was a complete prohibition of even coming near any form of alcohol. Allah said, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون إنما يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء في الخمر والميسر ويصدوكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون. Or you believe خمر ميسر أنصاب and الأزلام are a rijs of Shaitan's handwork. So avoid that in order that you may be successful. Shaitan wants only to excite enmity and hatred between you with Khamr and Maisir and hinder you from the remembrance of Allah and from the Salah, the prayer. So will you not then abstain. Surah Al-Ma'idah 5:90 verse 90 to 91. If one was unaware of the order in which the verses were revealed, he or she may mistakenly think that the drinking alcohol is allowed as long as the one doesn't get drunk and come to Salah, or it might doubt that benefiting from the sale of alcohol is permitted. Number 2, Da'wah. By understanding the order in which the verses of the Quran were revealed, one can learn the best method of teaching Islam. For example, the Quran taught that believers not to curse or make fun of the idols of the disbelievers in order to not to drive them away, or in order that they do not cast Allah out of ignorance. Instead, they were not told to reason with the believers and show them logically why the worship of idols was correct. Allah said, قال فتعبدون من دون الله ما لا ينفعكم شيئا ولا يضركم. Ibrahim said, do you then worship besides Allah things that can neither profit you nor harm you? Surah Anbiya 21:66. Number 3, Sirah. Many of the important events in the Prophet's life have been recorded in various parts of the Quran. Thus, by knowing the order in which the verses were revealed, it's possible to piece together a large portion of the biography of the Prophet ﷺ, translated by Fahad Barman. أي نعم.